Now that we got the basic UI for our modal built, let's make this thing work. So the first thing we want to do is actually plug this in with real data. So the first step to that is to update our mock data with a profile. So if I go to mock data, basically same thing we're going to do here. So I'm going to copy and paste this, except instead of creating a location, we are going to create a profile. There we go. It is a CK record, lab record, profile type. I'm just going to go line by line to update things. So profile type is not a location. It is a profile. Cool. And then instead of, DDG location everywhere, it is DDG profile. Guess I could have done rename all in scope, but whatever. DDG profile. There we go. And then we don't have K name. We have K first name. I'm just doing all this from memory because I am very familiar with this project. But of course, if you didn't have all this memorized, you could go back and, change it. So bio, and then here we don't need anything else because the last thing on our profile is the avatar, which we're using our placeholder avatar. Our record doesn't have to have one. I guess bio would be capitalized. So now instead of first name being Sean's Bar and Grill, it's just Sean. And then we'll do Alan. Or actually, you know what? Just so it's not me, because I hard-coded that, we'll do test user. Company name is going to be best company ever. And then the bio is going to say, this is my bio. I hope it's not too long. I can't check character count, whatever. Just put something in there. And then of course, what we got to do, right? Okay, so create the record with record type profile. Give me a first name, last name, company name, bio, and then return record. Cool. So that is setting up our mock data. So now if we go to ProfileModalView, let's get our preview up here so we can see this in action. So now I need a profile here, right? So this is var profile, and it's of type DDG profile. And then when we create our modal view, of course, we'll have to pass in a profile. So now instead of Sean Allen, we want to do profile.firstname, and then we'll do plus, and then we got to add a space in between them. So that's what we did there. And then profile.lastname. So we're concatenating a string to have our first name, add a space, and then our last name. That's what we're doing right there. So instead of test company, right, now we're on profile.company name. And okay, hit resume. What is Xcode yelling at me? I don't know why. Oh, I know, my preview's messed up. So let me update the preview because I do want to see this happen. So instead of profile modal view, right, now it takes in a profile. And again, we can initialize a DDG profile from a record, and we have a record on our mock data dot profile. So, okay, now that my profile is there, my preview should be working. Yep, now we see test user, best company ever. We haven't switched out our bio, so let's do that. We'll do profile.bio. There we go. So that switches that out. Okay, it's only 2 lines. That's fine. I could go back and make it 3 lines so I properly test it, but whatever. So now we have plugged in our data, our DDG profile, with all the stuff, right? Nothing is is hard-coded with the exception of our avatar. Profile.create avatar image, because remember, if our profile's avatar CK asset is nil, we're automatically going to the placeholder that you see here. However, if we have the CK asset, we'll populate the real image. Okay, so our profile modal UI is essentially done. Let's take a look at our location detail view, right? So what we want to do is add a tap gesture to one of our first name avatar views down here. Because once we tap one of those, that's when we want to show the modal. So what I'm going to do, so I don't have to add tap gestures to all these, we're going to kind of adapt our UI for now, just to show one of them instead of 5 of them, right? We got the point. We know what it looks like. And here in the next couple of videos, we're actually going to do the check-in, check-out stuff. So we're actually showing the real stuff. So no big deal here. So for now, we'll do .tap gesture. What we want to do is we need to flip a Boolean like is showing modal view. So let's create that Boolean of is showing modal view. So let's add that to our view model. So location detail view model at published var is showing profile modal, and that is going to equal false by default. So now back in the location detail view on tap gesture, we can do is showing, no, view model, forgot about that. View model dot is showing profile modal equals true. And I noticed a horrible misspelling. So back to location detail, Profile, whatever, I don't know what that was. Profile modal, there we go. Now in location detail view, profile modal, cool. Okay, so when we tap on the face, that is gonna be flipped to true. So what we wanna do is show the modal. Well, let me resume this here so we can see this. This is our whole view. We want the modal to be on top, right? Because the animation slides in. And then we also have a transparent background. So what I'm going to do is put this whole screen in a Z stack, right? Because this screen is the bottom layer of the Z stack. And then on top of the screen, we want the transparent background and the modal. Okay, so that's the overall structure. Up here in the body on line 15, Z stack, open and close that. And then I'm going to get my V stack, which I know has all these modifiers on it right here. I'm going to keep the alert and stuff on the Z stack. So cut the V stack, paste into the Z stack, and then delete this little extra line. So now, just so you know what I did there, all my alert navigation title is now on my root view, which is the Z stack. Okay, so let's do some code folding here. I don't use this as often as I should. On this V stack, just to help me use this, you click this little down arrow right here. That folds up the entire V stack. So now I can add my if view model.is showing profile modal. Then we show the views. If not, no. So anyway, yeah, that's something that's really handy in SwiftUI is that code folding. Just don't forget to like unfold it. And I don't know why this is super spaced out. Maybe I had a bunch of extra spaces down there, whatever. We'll address that. So let's worry about the transparent view last. The first thing I want to show is my profile modal view. And you'll notice that takes in a profile. And for now, we're going to pass in our DDG profile mock data, essentially, because we are going to eventually pass in whatever profile they tapped on, but we don't have that quite built yet. So for now, we're just going to populate it with our mock data. We're just building the overall structure of the UI, getting it to show up. We'll make all the connections once everything is working. So to review, we'll unfold our VStack real quick because on our first name avatar view, which is this thing that says Sean down here, we have a tap gesture that will flip is showing profile modal to true. And then when that happens, now we'll fold up this VStack. And by the way, refactoring will come later. We'll talk about that. But so when that happens, we'll show the profile view, modal view. So let's run this. Of course, we're not done. We got a lot of stuff to do, but I like to test step by step. Okay, if I go to my locations, AC Kitchen and Lounge, sure, here's Sean, tap it. Okay, there's my modal view. Of course, we don't have animations. We don't have the transparent background. We can't dismiss it. Okay, so let's work on dismissing it before we like do our animations and stuff. We'll save the animations for last. So stop that. So I need a way on my profile modal view to dismiss it. So I need a binding to that is showing profile modal here on my profile modal view. So at binding var is showing profile modal, and that is a Boolean. And then here in my overlay, right? Let me resume this so we can see it, right? That the circle X dismiss button, whatever I want to do is showing profile modal equals false. And as a refresher on bindings, what that does is when I tap that, it has a binding to this is showing profile modal, which I need to pass in from my location detail view here. So you'll see I'm getting the error that says, let's get rid of our previous, that says we're missing the argument for is showing profile modal. So I need to pass that to my modal when I create it. And we're going to put our parameters, like that, because these are quite long. So the binding I want to pass is a binding to viewModel.is showing profile modal, right? Because that's the true or false. So what happens is when I tap that X button in my modal, it has a binding up to my view model that will flip that, and then we'll update this UI accordingly, which should dismiss that modal. So let's test that real quick. I think I'm missing something. Yeah. Previews, they get me every time. So we'll add the parameter there. And then here in the preview, we can just do constant true. That's fine. And then, for the sake of sanity, we'll put those down there. Okay, now let's run it. And I should be able to dismiss my modal. Again, no animations, no nothing. So here we are in locations, AC Kitchen and Lounge. Let's show it. Okay, cool. Now when I tap this, it's gone. Show it, dismiss it. Show it, dismiss it. Cool. Again, I like to get the basic functionality before I start messing with like animations and all that stuff. So now that we got the basic functionality, it's animation time. Stop this, go back to our location detail view. Because in this conditional, right, if we're showing the profile modal, cool, we're just showing the profile modal, but we want the bottom layer of this. And again, we're still in the V stack, so we still have that logic here. So below our modal view, we want the black transparency view. And all that is a color of dot black. And then of course we got to add some modifiers. First thing, dot ignores safe area. We want it to fill up the whole screen, available screen. And then I do want opacity to be 0.9. And again, this is personal preference. Like if you look at the screenshot, how you can kind of see a little bit behind it. If you want it perfectly opaque, great, do that. If you want a lighter opacity, maybe you want to give it a blurred background, have a ball. I chose this black background with 90% opacity. And actually, you know what? It's not even black. I'm sorry. It's dot system background. because I don't want it to always be black. In light mode, I want it to be a white color, right? So I want it to adapt to dark mode. So we need some more modifiers. Here's where we get to the animation. And admittedly, there's a little bit of a buggy animation. We can do something called transition, right? So when this view transitions in and out, we can do, scale, slide, opacity, right? So opacity is, of course, what we probably want. Our modal, we're going to add slide to. You'll see that in a little bit. And then scale, you can imagine, is getting from small to big. So we'll do opacity. I'm going to leave this now. We are going to have to adjust this because I think it's a bug in SwiftUI. It's not quite working. We'll come back to that. So now we need .animation.ease out. And then we do need to set the Z index to get these animations to work with something with Z indexes. So we want to add Z index 1 to our background and then Z index 2 to our modal. So now that we got the background animating, let's add some animations to our profile modal view. Again, transition, we can do .opacity and we can do .combined with, here you can combine animations, we'll do slide. So the idea here is that there's a combination slide and fade out effect that you'll see. And then again, .animation.ease out and then .z index of 2, right? Because we want to make sure our profile modal view is always on top of our black background. Okay, so let's run this. And it's not going to work, but I'm doing this like piece by piece. Okay, go to locations, AC Kitchen and Lounge. Cool, tap Sean, and you'll notice the black background just snapped in. It didn't like fade in. Our slide worked on our modal, so that's working. And now if I hit X, it just goes away. So if you think about this, when we tap this, we have kind of the first phase of the animation working, where the black background, it just pops in. We got to work on that transition in our slide. But when we dismiss it, it just like nothing happens. It's not triggering the animation. So let's handle the dismissal part first, because that has to happen in our profile modal view. So we'll stop this. So here we're in our location detail, adding that. But if we go to our profile modal view, on our dismiss here, we can add the with animation, give me that, and then put this here. So this is what's going to trigger the animations that we set up. And of course, you know me, that's got to be a one-liner. Got to be a one-liner there. So this is what fires off the animations. You notice how when we were tapping the dismiss button, it was just disappearing. Okay, so now we'll run it. Again, I'm building this piece by piece so you can see what's going on here. Okay, locations, we'll go to Chipotle this time. Sean. Okay, the black background still snapped in. We'll address that. But now when I dismiss it, we should see the animation out. There you go, okay? In, out, in, out. Cool, and you can see it fading on the way out, our modal. Okay, so now once we get our black background fading in, we should be good to go. So hit stop there, back to the location detail view. And again, this transition.opacity should be working. It feels like it's a little bit of a bug. So we'll add this kind of hacky code to get it to work. So I'm going to copy and then paste this, and I'll comment that out just so you can like see it, that it's still there, so you know what to do. And then you can do any transition, .opacity, .animation, right? And this takes in an animation here, which is .ease out. And then we'll give it a duration of 0.35 is what I dialed that into. So again, I don't know why this transition.opacity is not working. I think it's a SwiftUI bug. Maybe it'll work in iOS 15. Maybe somebody knows a solution, but if you write it out this long way, it should work. And I don't think we then need this animation ease out if we're going to do it that way. So run it here. So now if we go to Mescal, okay, so now watch the animation, right? Okay, you see the background fade in, dismiss, the background fades out. Well, just watch the background fade in, fade out. Much smoother animation. You can see our modal view is also fading out on the background. So that is our logic and our animation. We'll stop that. I'll get rid of that. And again, I'm going to leave this comment here on the transition opacity just for the reasons I mentioned. Let's uncode fold our Z stack. Again, there's refactoring to do, but it's not horrible. So I'll probably save for example, this black background should definitely be refactored out into a single line view. We'll come back and address the refactoring. We have the basic UI of our modal working with the nice little animation. Now let's move on to implementing the check-in and check-out functionality so we can get some real faces showing up at our locations.